Hey, that shootout that you heard about in Jersey City this past Tuesday? Well, we're going to share with you 5 things that you may not know about the Jersey Shootout. And hey, remember that Ring doorbell camera that you have on there at your front door? Well, some disturbing news about that we're going to share with you that you will not want to miss. Also, we'll be telling you about our crazy quirk of the week, and of course, we'll also have our courageous citizen story. All that and more in what has been called the fastest 30 minutes in crime talk. Well, good day, and welcome once again to the podcast. Charlie Crimebuster here, welcoming you. If you're a new listener, thank you for joining us. Please take time to sign up on iTunes or whatever social platform that you may get your podcast from. That way you can listen to the podcast at your own leisure when you would like to listen to it. A lot of folks will listen to us on the way to and from work. Others will listen at various other times throughout the day. Whichever way, we're delighted to have you as part of the Charlie Crimebuster family today. Well, we're going to be talking about this shootout that they had up in Jersey. Wow, what a shootout it was. It was an OK Corral type situation. Station 4 in New York reported that there were heavily armed local and state officers in SWAT trucks that swarmed the scene, ducking behind doorways and store entrances, some even crawling along sidewalks closely pressed to the ground as they zeroed in on this bodega, this little store, which was the center of the shootout. Seemingly dozens of gunshots continued to ring throughout the afternoon. That's based on audio from the scene. And Police Chief Michael Kelly, he says this, quote, "Our officers were under fire for hours," Kelly said, adding, 2 more police officers were hit by gunfire. 1 sustained an injury to the shoulder. 1 sustained another injury to the body. These officers have been since released from the hospital. Now, news of this Jersey shootout filled our airways, posted all over social media throughout the world. Yes, it was a modern-day version of the OK Corral in modern times. And on today's podcast, you're going to discover 5 things that you may not know about the Jersey shootout that left 6 people dead. First, why did a detective of a ceasefire unit come into contact with the Jersey shooters in the first place? You see, it started with a cop doing his duty. He was checking on a suspicious vehicle parked in a cemetery. Hey, maybe you have heard the saying, you never see a hearse carrying a body with a U-Haul trailer coming behind it. You see, that's a reference to the fact that when you die, you can't take it with you. But in this instance, it was not a hearse with a U-Haul parked behind it, but it was a U-Haul van that looked suspicious to Officer Sills. A U-Haul van in a cemetery. And that U-Haul van, perhaps known or unknown to Officer Sills, it had 2 armed bandits in it, armed to the teeth, mass shooters with a bomb. It said in police work that there's no such thing as a routine traffic stop. And checking on this particular vehicle turned out to be anything but routine, I can assure you. And Detective Officer Sill, he was not just a routine average officer either. You see, Sills was a 40-year-old father of 5. He joined the Jersey City Police Department back in 2006. He was a veteran with the city's ceasefire unit, and he was the department's leading officer in removing guns from Jersey streets. That's what Kelly says. You see, Sills, he'd gained some press in 2008 after saving a woman from a sexual assault inside her own home on Christmas Eve. Sills and a partner, well, they climbed a fire escape. They broke a window. That's according to NJ.com report. They wrestled the suspect to the ground as he fought with officers. And now this great cop is now dead because as he approached that truck, that van, one of the suspects got out of the car, and shot him. An armed suspect shot him dead. Now, the veteran police officer who was doing his job was killed in the line of duty, leaving behind a grieving wife and children. And you also find that this cop, who first encountered this killing duo, well, he did much more than make a routine stop and check. You see, it was his heroic actions that save more people than you realize. That and more we're going to share with you in the remaining of the podcast. More about 5 things you may not know about the Jersey Shootout in just a moment. But before that, we have news. We have news about an intruder who reportedly broke into the wrong home. This comes to us from Kansas City KSHB-TV. You see, the intruder reportedly broke into the home of an off-duty Kansas City Police Department sergeant on Monday, and this is according to KSHB-TV. But this officer, well, he definitely got the best of the suspect. The incident took place on Monday about 2:30 a.m. local time. That's according to the outlet. The 20-year veteran of the department said that he had heard odd noises coming from his kitchen when he encountered a male intruder and pulled out a firearm. The suspect reportedly fled on foot, and the officer called for backup on his police radio. And fearing for his safety, the officer fired multiple shots at the male, who then ran from the scene in an unknown direction. That's what spokesperson Sergeant Jake told the outlet. Police have not located the suspect, and it's not known whether the suspect was armed. Now the department has placed the officer on paid administrative leave pending an investigation into the incident. But we find that there's absolutely no indication in this case that the intruder knew anything about the resident. It appears to be in the middle of the night he was coming into the home. There's no evidence that the target was the officer. Now, the Kansas City report also said it's unknown whether any of the sergeant's shots hit the intruder. Police have determined no suspects with gunshot wounds have been turned up in area hospitals at the time of this particular report. I would like to say that you might want to check to see if the home you are breaking into has a trained lawman as the owner. That's to all you bad guys out there. But today, in fact millions of people are carrying concealed weapons, and many of those have taken training, and they are smart carry citizens who carry safely their weapons, and they're trained to use them to protect themselves and their loved ones. So, Mr. Bad Guy, be warned out there. There are plenty of good guys, and they have guns. Now, our focus story is 5 things that you may not know about the Jersey Shootout. Here's the second thing that you may not know. A new arrest connected to the Jersey Shootout. You see, this story may have started days before with a crime. You see, officials have been reported as saying that the shootout at the cemetery may have been Officer Sill just following up on a case that happened over the previous weekend. This is according to the New York Post. You see, 2 attackers in this horrific Jersey City shooting, that one that left 3 civilians and a cop dead, well, those attackers are the prime suspects now in a previous murder of a livery driver up there in New Jersey. That's what the Attorney General said. The Attorney General did not provide a lot of details on the connection between Tuesday's shooters, David Anderson and Francine Graham, but he did say the slaying of a 34-year-old Michael Rumberger, who was found dead in the trunk of a Lincoln Town car on December the 7th, was connected. You see, according to the Hudson County Prosecutor's Office, members of the police department there responded to the 17th Street and John F. Kennedy Boulevard at around 10 p.m. on December the 7th. It was a report that they were investigating of possible criminal activity. And there they found Rumberger of Jersey City unresponsive in the trunk of the vehicle with trauma to his head, and he was pronounced dead at the scene. Now on Tuesday, veteran Jersey City Detective Joseph Sills, he spotted Anderson and Graham in a stolen U-Haul van that was linked to the killing of the livery driver there in New Jersey. And unfortunately, the officer was fatally shot in the head when he tried to question the pair. It is now believed that U-Haul van that Detective Sills was checking was tied back to the shooting of that livery driver. Well, we're going to get back to our focus story in a moment. But first, remember that Ring door camera that you may have at your door? Well, a couple of podcasts ago, we informed you about a software glitch that became a security breach where people could hack your camera. Now, we were told that the Ring doorbell camera's glitch has been repaired and that as long as you update your software, you should be okay. However, now there is a more disturbing news about the Ring doorbell camera. This comes to us from 6 Orlando News, Channel 6. A Tennessee couple said that the Ring security camera placed inside, now get this, their 8-year-old's bedroom was hacked by someone who told the girl that he was Santa Claus and wanted to be her best friend. That's what WMC Action News 5 reported. Now, according to the girl's mother, the Amazon-owned device was set up in the girl's room, which she shares with her 2 sisters. That was set up about 4 days earlier. You see, the device allows someone on one end of the camera to speak to the other end. The girl, she heard music playing and went into her room and said, "Who is that?" The hacker responded, "I am your best friend. I'm Santa Claus." Now, the girl called for her parents, and of course they immediately unplugged the camera. Now, Ring said in a statement to the Fox Business that the company encourages the users to enable 2-factor authentication, which the family admittedly had not done. Now, it's not known who hacked into the family's camera, so make sure that you follow instructions to the T and always update your software if you are an owner of the Ring camera. Now, as a postscript, P.S., please remember that nothing is entirely safe. You see, your door at your home can be broken down even if it's locked, but that does not mean you don't use good, strong doors and secure locks to keep intruders out. And the Ring doorbell, more often than not, protects your home in much the same way. Remember, anything can be hacked and anything can be broken into. So just like we always tell you here on Charlie Crimebuster, just make sure that your home is the most difficult one to break into on your block and in your neighborhood. Make sure that your home is the most secure home, and more than likely, and of course, for sure, you will be safer than others. Well, there you go. There's Patsy Cline again, reminding us that it's time for our Crazy Crook story. That's right. On the podcast, we always share what we call our Crazy Crook story. We share with you some stories about crooks that do some very, very dumb things. And this one is about a chilling story, if you get my drift. Local crime in South Florida can be rather chilling, but this takes the cake. This comes to us from Huff News. It says that Monday, the city of Miami police arrested a man, now get this, who had been hiding in a freezer of a Checkers restaurant before demanding cash and goods from early morning employees. You see, the freezer door pops open, and this gentleman comes out and starts demanding money in everyone's articles. They're freaking out. They call 911, and they come running out of the restaurants. That's what Sergeant Freddie Cruz told WSVN. Now, a photo available at Loco10.com shows the suspect who appears to be wearing swim trunks, wrapped in a blanket while being escorted to the squad car. It's quite bizarre how this gentleman was able to hide in the freezer. That's what Cruz says. It's unclear how many hours he was in there. Well, we're not thinking that he was there all night. Otherwise, it is possible he could have lost his life and froze to death. The quest to rob others, particularly at fast food chains, well, it's left many a burglar trapped in undesirable circumstances and a part of what is called the dumb crooks. You see, there were 2 armed robbers in California. Well, they were left stranded earlier this year when a Burger King employee, well, he hid their getaway car. And a few years ago in Denver, a pizza joint employee found a burglar trapped in the pizza oven vent, and he was yelling, "Help me, help me." And in a more serious event, there was a deceased body of a suspected burglar found trapped in the chimney. in the chimney of a law firm in England. Yes, my friend, these are crazy, crazy times. Now back to our feature story, our focus story. Five things you may not know about the Jersey Shootout. Number 3, and by the way, this is just off the press. It has just recently been revealed there is now another arrest that's been connected to the Jersey Shootout. It seems like a pawn shop owner up in Keyport, New Jersey. Well, he has now been arrested on weapons-related charges after his phone number was found on one of the suspects in the Jersey City shooting. You see, officials are now looking into whether any of the guns used in the shooting came from the Keyport pawn shop, which was full of firearms, including 3 AR-15 style assault rifles. You see, prosecutors have previously said they believe that some of the guns used in Tuesday's shootout, well, they may have been purchased in Ohio by Francine Graham, one of the 2 suspects. But the shop's owner's phone number, it was found on a piece of paper in the pocket of David Anderson. That's the other suspect. Ahmed A. Hadi, 35, he was arrested Saturday morning and faces 1 count of being a felon in possession of a firearm. That's what the U.S. Attorney tells us in a statement. Federal prosecutors said they searched this gentleman's store, his pawn shop, and alleged that while he admitted to owning 2 handguns purchased in 2017, well, he falsely denied that they were there. After 212 conviction on state-controlled substance-related charges, you see, he is no longer is he allowed to possess firearms. One of his relatives told authorities that this pawn shop owner had a safe at the store with guns inside, and a search turned up 3 handguns there. Further searches there at his home turned up a total of 10 weapons and more than 400 rounds of ammunition, including some hollow point bullets. This was from New Jersey, you see, and he was tied to the shooters. Well, there's more news from New Jersey, but not related to the shootout. But it does qualify as what we call our cyber crime tip of the week. It seems a New Jersey man was killed last weekend, now get this, after he was pinned between 2 cars, one of which was started remotely by its owner. That's what officials tell us. This gentleman was 21 years of age, and he was in Queens, at New York, on Friday when he died at 10 p.m. It seems he was standing between 2 parked 2002 Lexus IS 300s when one of them turned on after it was accidentally started by a remote control system. Now, the turned-on car somehow rolled forward, trapping this young man between 2 vehicles. That's what local news reported. Now, bystanders, they attempted to move the car backward, but in the course of doing so, the vehicle rolled forward once again and pinned the pedestrian between the 2 vehicles once more. This gentleman was transported, but unfortunately he died at the scene. Now, it's unclear how the Lexus rolled forward, as the remote system isn't supposed to work unless the vehicle is placed in park. Now, a spokesperson for Lexus told Street Blog that the remote start feature was not offered in their vehicles in 2002, and therefore someone had added this feature to the vehicle after it was purchased. This young man was a high school graduate, loved to skateboard, ride ATVs and dirt bikes. No arrests have been made in his death. That's according to Street's Blog, which reported that he was looking at one of the cars to determine if he should buy it. Now, to our 4th thing that you may not know about the Jersey Shootout. But first, some sad news about something that happened in our own county. It comes from DeLand, Florida. It seems a woman was brutally beaten to death by her live-in boyfriend. That's what DeLand police chief said. He added that the attack was loud enough that the neighbor could hear it in detail, but the violence only ended after the woman's abuser called 911 when she stopped breathing. Kilmer Everson, 24, was found beaten unconscious in her apartment on Friday, and she died Monday, according to the DeLand Police Department. She was brutally beaten, very violent, and she died a very violent death. That's what the chief of police says. Now, police said that she was found in her apartment there on Woodland Boulevard around 8:23 p.m. Friday after Christopher Parker, 31, called 911 asking for medical assistance for his girlfriend because she was not breathing. The police chief says the victim's neighbor could hear the attack for about 30 to 45 minutes. But get this, never notified authorities. Ultimately, it was Parker. It was her assailant that called 911. In the call that was released by the Volusia County Sheriff's Office, Parker said that the lady was turning blue and not breathing. Why is she not breathing, the dispatcher asked Parker. Did she take something? Oh, she was drinking alcohol, that's all. She was drinking alcohol, Parker said, yelling, she's not breathing. Well, the dispatcher counted along with Parker for about 5 minutes as he attempted CPR on the victim several times. Baby, wake up, Parker could be heard yelling repeatedly until the moment first responders arrived at the apartment. Now, a neighbor of the victims told investigators she thought about calling 911 but chose not to. She instead went to a local neighborhood Walmart to shop for dinner with her children, and when she returned home, she saw her neighbor on a stretcher being placed into an ambulance. That's according to the report. Another witness described hearing punching sounds and what sounded like gasping for air. And he said some of the investigators were very upset based on the fact that the beating was loud enough to be heard by multiple residents in the complex, but no one called for help in the situation. When officers arrived, they found the lady unresponsive, suffering from life-threatening injuries. She was taken to a hospital in critical condition, placed on life support, and she died Monday. That's according to officials. He said he died likely of blunt force trauma. The autopsy, though, is still pending. Her injuries were very disturbing and was a result of a vicious attack, the chief said. Investigators said the apartment showed signs of a struggle and attempts to clean up the scene. And Parker, well, he was arrested Friday. One count of grand theft, one count of aggravated battery. And on Monday, Parker was charged with 4 counts of grand theft, according to jail records. And investigators are working with state attorney's office to file charges of first-degree murder. Meanwhile, Parker is being held in Volusia County Jail without bail. Now get this, court records show Parker has been arrested 9 times in the past year. 9 times in the past year. Burglary, possession of marijuana, grand theft. And the victim had a history of domestic violence. He says the two of them have a child together who was not home during the time of the attack. A neighbor told police Friday that Parker frequently beat her, causing injuries to her head and to her face. Sad, isn't it? Sad, isn't it, that neighbors heard this go down. Did not even take the time to call 911. Did not even take the time, but instead decided to go shopping for groceries while this lady was literally being beaten to death. This brings us to our fourth thing that you may not know about the Jersey Shootout, and that is that faith saved a man's life, and faith, well, it may be the motive for the shooters. You see, after the shooters took the life of Detective Sills, they targeted a neighborhood bodega. Ironically, the owner of that store was at a synagogue, worshiping, and was placed on lockdown. Unfortunately, though, his wife was one of those that was killed in the shootout that targeted the bodega. Here's a brief timeline of how this shooting went down. According to reports, it is believed at some point Tuesday, 2 individuals, David Anderson, 47, and Francine Graham, Graham was 50 years of age, that they encountered and killed Jersey Police Detective Joseph Sills at the Bayview Cemetery in Jersey City. Then at approximately 12:21 p.m., a white U-Haul van, driven by Anderson, parked directly across the street from the J.C. Kosher Supermarket, which is about 1 mile from the cemetery. Within seconds of arriving, Anderson then exited the driver's door of the U-Haul with a rifle in his hands. He walked toward the J.C. Supermarket and immediately began shooting. Graham, the passenger in the van, followed Anderson to the store, and from that point on, until the conclusion of the event, the 2 suspects remained inside the store. Now, inside the supermarket, the suspects encountered 4 civilians. 3 of these civilians were killed. 1 survived a gunshot wound. The survivor was able to escape the store at the beginning of the incident, and authorities are not providing the name at this time. Then at approximately 12:38 p.m., the Jersey City Police Department received a 911 call from an individual who discovered Sills' body. Minutes later, at approximately 12:43 p.m., Jersey City Police Command and personnel arrived at the vicinity of the supermarket and engaged with the 2 suspects, inside where a, quote, lone protracted shootout followed. Then at approximately 3:25 p.m., an armored police vehicle broke through the entryway of the supermarket. and at 3:47 p.m., approximately, the law enforcement incident ended when the officers discovered the bodies inside the supermarket. And according to officials, as soon as the shootout ended, law enforcement began processing the scene for various items of evidence, including digital and documentary evidence. And now that evidence, including evidence found on social media, leads us to believe that this is indeed a hate crime against the Jewish people, the Jewish faith. Officers said surveillance video indicated the market had been deliberately marked, raising the specter that the shooting was another in a growing national pattern of anti-Semitic attacks. This confirms a sad truth. There is a crisis gripping this nation. That's what the New York mayor says. He said that attack, which claims the lives of 2 New York natives at a news conference with the Orthodox Jewish community Thursday, the mayor referred to hate as a larger danger, and it's growing. You see, Tuesday's shooting followed a pair of deadly attacks at U.S. synagogues within the past 14 months. One near San Diego that left 1 person dead in April, and one in October 2018 at the Tree of Life Synagogue in Pittsburgh. That one claimed 11 lives. And reports of these types of hate crimes in New York City rose 63% this year compared to 2018. That's according to the New York Police Department. And a wave of violent crimes against Orthodox Jews in Brooklyn neighborhoods. And they said this fall that the United States was on pace for a record number of these type of incidents. Now this brings us to our 5th and final fact that you may not know. And that is that our hero in this tragedy is no doubt Officer Joseph Sills, 40 years of age, a veteran of the police department. You see, it's because of his intervention that cost his own life. Police were already on the alert and readily available in the area, and that no doubt saved countless lives. You see, it is often in our worst times that we find the best of people, and there are a number of people that put their lives on the line, including the brave officers that were wounded in this action. Our 5th thing is the way the community is supporting the family of Officer Sills. You see, last night while watching the movie Highwaymen, in which 2 retired Texas Rangers took down Bonnie and Clyde, well, I watched the lead in the movie as he was telling someone about a cop that Bonnie and Clyde had brutally murdered. He described the scene and he said, now, this cop's wife will be standing in the bread line to feed her family. Well, thanks to the community, Mrs. Sills will not face that humiliation. Because from New Jersey, WABC, they report that the Stephen Siller Tunnel to Towers Foundation announced Friday that it will pay off the mortgage of the police detective who was gunned down in Jersey City this week. Detective Joseph Sills, who died in the line of duty in the Bayview Cemetery Tuesday, murdered by 2 suspects who went to kill 3 others in a Jewish supermarket before being killed by the police. Sills, he was a veteran of the department. He leaves behind a wife and 5 children. We want to thank the Tunnels to Tower Foundation for everything they've done. Sills' cousin, Justice Smith, said, no amount of money will ever bring Joy back, but to lift the burden of the mortgage off of Laura, who is his wife, so she can grieve and raise her children means more to the family than anyone will ever know. Sills came out of Jersey City's South District, one of the busiest police precincts in the state. He was promoted to detective in 2017 and assigned to the city's ceasefire unit. This 40-year-old North Arlington resident was a leading police officer in removing guns from the street. Authorities say dozens and dozens of handguns were removed from bad guys under his watch. We believe he was killed while trying to interdict these bad guys on Garfield Avenue. That's what Chief Michael Kelly said. Well, truly, my friend, truly, Tuesday in Jersey, it was the worst of times. And yet, in the worst of times, American courage and compassion was present and accounted for. This is Charlie Crimebuster, reminding you to be safe, be vigilant. For the life you save, it may well be your very own.